Oh, death, how you all this day of your time as you create time to exist. Allow us to begin this interaction this evening of your time with the laying of the foundation between us. The foundation will consist of an exploration, of a definition of what you call the imagination. Now, all of you generally realize you have an imagination, but most of you, as I have perceived your society, are usually never taught what the imagination is really for, why it really exists, how you can really use it in connection to the creation of your experiential reality. In other words, some of you already understand, and some of you may not understand, that the fundamental to everything we will share with you is the discussion of the idea that each and every one of you individually and collectively are absolutely and utterly responsible for the creation of your experiential day-to-day reality. Your physical reality is your creation, your projection. You have been taught for thousands of your years, tens of thousands of your years, that what you call physical reality exists outside of you, that you exist within it, that it is separate from you, that you, in a sense, are separate from it. But even your own scientists now are beginning to discover this is not the case. They are now beginning to be aware of what we have been sharing with you, that what you call seemingly exteriorized physical reality is actually a projection of what you imagine it to be. That physiological reality does not really empirically exist apart from your definition of it. That physiological reality, what you have for so long deemed to be the solid exterior world, actually is created out of the definition. The idea, therefore, is to understand how strong an impact definitions and beliefs have in creating that physiological reality. All that you experience in what you call your day-to-day life is the product of what you have been taught to buy as a belief about what it ought or ought not to be. Only these definitions are what gives physical reality its seeming solidity. Seeming solidity. For solidity, physiological solidity, is also only one of the definitions that create your experience of physical reality. Physical reality can be very malleable, very fluctuatable, very flexible. Does not have to be as seemingly unchanging or as slowly changing as many of you have thought that it is. This definition of slow change of solid matter is simply the product of thousands of generations in your society of the habit of thinking of it that way. But now you are awakening as a society to the exploration of different levels of what you call consciousness and spirituality, and are beginning to explore and recognize that you have many more levels, I shall say for now, of consciousness than you previously were taught that you had. You are beginning to discover different aspects of yourself in a way that allows you to think differently, beyond what you are used to using as your senses. You are now discovering you have the capacity to sense more than you used to think you have. And in this application, in this exploration, you are now beginning to realize many things about the connectedness between your consciousness and physical reality that you have heretofore not understood exist. That consciousness and physical reality are not really separate ideas, but that physical reality, what you call physical reality, is but an expression of the consciousness that you are. One expression, and you have many of them on many different levels and many different dimensions of experience, and they are all real and all true. Expressions of yourself, of the consciousness, the total being that you are, of which this personality is but a fragment, an aspect, an expression, one facet of the most multi-dimensional crystal that each and every one of you are, individually and collectively. Therefore, the majority of what we will be discussing this evening of your time will all basically be laid upon this understanding, this foundation that you create your own reality, and will basically all be directed, generally speaking, into the understanding of your imagination. For it is your imagination that is the prime tool, the prime ingredient, out of which and through which you can learn, A, that you have always created your reality through it, and that B, you can create any reality you desire from this point forward by getting in touch with how you have done it in the past, what the mechanism of your imagination is actually all about, and how you can use it consciously to create the reality you want. Imagination. It is the prime tool. It is the dimension of all experience, of all possible reality you could create yourself to be. Fundamentally speaking, it works as follows. You have a picture in your mind of something you would like to do. A visualization, you call it. Now this visualization will usually contain a picture of yourself doing the thing you want to do. You will daydream it, as you say. You will picture it, visualize it, imagine it. You will see yourself doing the thing, having the thing that you want. Well, recognize something that you may not have recognized before. Your society has taught you, well, all right, that's all well and good. That's your imagination. Your society usually says that's just your imagination. And that picture you have isn't really real. Oh, it's a nice thought, a nice wish. Oh, but face reality. Reality's not like that. Oh, yes. But you have been taught to believe it's not. You have been taught to believe your imagination is not real. But understand this. Your imagination, what you call this visualization, this picture in your mind's eye, this seeing of yourself in a situation you would prefer to be in, is the viewing, the observation of a real reality, another probable you. I say probable only because you don't believe it actually exists. It does exist. It is another you. And if you begin to understand that it is a real reality, then what you can simply do is recognize that it represents another vibration, another frequency, which is the only thing that defines one reality from another. And if you recognize the difference between the frequency that the picture represents and the frequency you have been living in, then you may realize something else. If you wish that picture in your mind's eye to be the real reality, the experiential reality of your day-to-day life, then all you have to really do is watch the you in that picture, doing the things you say you would prefer to do, and mimic the you in the picture, in terms of its attitude, in terms of its approach to things, in terms of how that you say you want to be would handle the circumstances and situations that have occurred in your life. If a situation comes along and you don't know what to do with it, create the you in your imagination that you prefer to be, hand the situation to that you, and watch in your meditative state what the you, the idealized, preferable you in your imagination, does with that situation. Watch the attitude. Watch how that you handles the situation. Watch. Daydream out how that you will allow that situation to come to a successful conclusion. Then mirror it, match it, mimic it, and you will get the same conclusion, because you will be being that you. That's what your imagination is for, to create the template and the blueprint that will show you beyond a shadow of a doubt what methodology will work for you to be able to transform any situation, any circumstance, into the outcome and manifestation you prefer it to be. If you trust that in your imagination what you are seeing is a real you, and you start acting like that you will have the life of that you. You will be that person. Literally. Immediately. And you will get the same outcome. You will get the same effect that you see in your imagination. This is not a philosophical discussion. This is not an analogy. This is an actual mechanical, physical description of how it works. It is that easy. It is that simple. We are discussing physics. We are discussing mechanics of how you create your physical reality. You do this all the time. Anyway, it is simply that your society, not believing that your imagination is real, has allowed you to forget to place in your unconscious self the idea of the imagination, the ideas, the beliefs, the emotions that create your reality. When you're not in touch consciously with what those beliefs and imaginings are, then you do not necessarily see the connection between your outer, exterior, experiential, day-to-day reality and inner imaginary thing. This understanding, this connection, this allowance, this remembrance that your physical reality is created by your belief through your imagination, whether consciously or unconsciously, and allows you to use it in a conscious way, to know beyond a shadow of a doubt, clearly, observably, transparently, that to create your physical reality, to watch it happen, to watch yourself doing it, function, consciously, moment by moment, day by day, and to know that you are each and every one of you an expression of the infinite, an expression, an aspect of creation. Your own literature tells that you are made in the image of God. What does that mean? It means, from our that you are a reflection of the infinite creation. And if you are a reflection of the infinite creation, if the infinite creation is a multidimensional being, a multidimensional creator, then if you are made in that image, you yourself must be a multidimensional being, a multidimensional creator. You are an aspect of the universe. You have that power. You are that power. All beings within creation are all the different ways that the infinite creation has of expressing itself through the imagination. It is. All of you, all of us, are all the different ways that the infinite has of expressing itself through its imagination. You have the same capacity within your own experiential universe. That is how you do create your experiential universe, because you are co-creators with the infinite. It is this that we have come to reflect in you, to remind you, so that you, in taking back your power, in acknowledging the aspect of the infinite creator that you are, can live, in a sense, as you were meant to live, which is in absolute ecstasy and joy. No one has to struggle. You can't create it if you want it. You have created it, perhaps out of the belief that you needed to. But now you are waking up. Now you are beginning to realize that no one has to struggle. No one has to struggle. You are now realizing that ecstasy is what you are created from, and it is your birthright. Nothing is too good to be true. Nothing is too simple to be true. Unless you believe it must be the truth. Then believe me, you will get it. You will always get in your experiential reality the thing you believe or have been taught to believe is the most likely reality you will get. Getting in touch with that allows you to pick the reality you prefer. Now, at this time, we extend to you our deepest appreciation in allowing us to interact with you this day of your time. To us, you are a gift. We learn from you. Everyone learns, everyone grows. It is unending. Through you, our civilizations are given an opportunity to see that many more ways that the infinite creation can express itself to thee. Therefore, we thank you for functioning as ambassadors to your society. For that is what you are right now, literally. And we thank you for allowing us to function as ambassadors of our respective worlds in the association of worlds. For bit by bit and day by day, through these interactions, we may co-create with each other a conducive atmosphere that will allow us to interact more openly, more blatantly, as we say, face to face. Our faces externally may be different, but our hearts and our souls are the same. And it is on that level that we can relate, and that anything can be understood. In return for your willingness to co-create this interaction with us this day of your time, I ask you now, how may I serve you?
You say that
Speak up, so that all may hear.
you say that there are many aspects that we are.
Yes.
We are living different lifetimes at the same time.
Yes. Time is real while you are in it, but it is your creation. Linear time is, in a sense, your illusion. It is your way of experiencing physical reality. So, all these lives, you know you are living, as you say, have lived or will live, do actually all exist simultaneously. You can use, if I may, before you go on, what we have referred to as the radio analogy. Now, you all are familiar with the device in your society called a radio, yes? Recognize that you know all of the programs are there all at once. You don't actually assume that when you turn the dial, the program exists just at that time only for you. You know that you simply receive the one you have turned the dial to, but you know all the programs are still coming to the radio all at the same time. They all overlap. And the reason you can get any number of them is because they are all there for you to receive. Similarly, what you call different lifetimes are simply different programs, different frequencies of the total consciousness that you are, different perspectives and points of view of the total being that you are. At any one time, each channel may only perceive itself, but your overall consciousness has the ability of switching its dial to focus on any one of the programs, or all of the programs, if it wishes, and allow itself to receive the information from any number one of them, because they do not really exist in a past or in a future. They all exist now. They are all overlapping. And it's simply a matter of adjusting yourself and aligning yourself to a particular frequency that allows you to perceive information that belongs in another program. You follow along? Yes?
Yes. Well, that was going to be my question. How can I tap into other aspects of myself in order to help myself in this present?
What? Thank you very much. Now, first of all, remember, as I said, the first way to understand that it is easy to do is to understand understand that it is not as if you have to really delve into some deep, dark past, breaking through barriers, or some dim, distant, foggy future, breaking through barriers of time, because time is your illusion to begin with. If you begin with the notion that everything is right now, it brings it that much closer to you, because you understand it all exists within you. Secondly, however, allow yourself to remember very importantly the following idea. You, the you know yourself to be, exists in the present, now. Each and every one of you are a complete kit as you are. You have all the tools and all the ingredients you require to fully understand and live the life you are living now, without necessarily exploring ideas or connections that you may call the past or the future. We will be willing, in this sense, to explore any of these ideas with you to some degree, but you will always find us somewhat hesitant to focus you in the past, to focus you in the future, because generally we have observed in your society, you think you need to understand those connections in order to understand yourself in the present, and you do not really need them. It is a valid way to understand different ideas, but it is not essential in the sense that your past controls your present. You will always exist in the now. Now is the only experiential time there ever is. You are actually creating the past from the present, not the other way around. So whatever you choose to define yourself to be in the present is what determines what past you will discover about yourself. So you do not really need to go to the past to understand. If you simply define what you want to be now, that will give you all the ability you need to be whatever you want to be now. Just defining that, knowing you have the power to do so, and living that life that you prefer to live right now. So, if you desire this type of exploration, then simply realize it is all real, that your imagination is real, and if you simply relax in a centered and meditative state, and drift and daydream, as we have said, then if you put out a desire for a specific direction, your imagining, your picture, your inner knowing self will drift into those areas, will pick up on those frequencies. And if you don't analyze it, if you just let it come, just watch it, you will see pictures flowing through your imagination that will generally be representative of different lives you have lived that may have some bearing on the life you have created yourself to be in the present. Sometimes they may come at first in very brief flashes. Sometimes they may play themselves out in entirely unfolding, rich and sensory daydreams. Do not overanalyze them. Let them play themselves out in the way they most naturally come to you. Feel the essence of the idea and apply the essence to your present life. You do not necessarily need to understand, analytically speaking, every last detail of what you are experiencing to understand how you can simply use the essence, the feeling you are getting, in a way that you can apply to your present reality. You understand?
Yes.
Does that assist you?
Thank you.
We'll find you. Sure. You and then you.
I want to elaborate that.
Oh, right. Go right ahead.
And also talk about
That. Oh, one more. Each and every one of you do remember there are no accidents, and anything any of you have to say on some level, to some degree, can be applied by each and every one of you in your own life. Just because you are not asking the question does not mean it doesn't apply to you. Remember, there are no boring situations, only bored minds. Proceed.
Last time I met you,
Yes.
you had mentioned to me that your counterpart
Yes.
on your planet
Yes.
studying Bashar.
Yes.
I need you to elaborate on the multi-dimensional system because you'll spend some time more to my counterpart on that.
Well, it's simply an analogy, the idea of referring to as a multidimensional crystal, in the sense that if you simply think of a multifaceted crystal, you can understand that each and every facet represents what you would call a different light, a different aspect of the same crystal, facing in a different direction, with a complete different set of experiences, yet they are all part of the same single crystal. Understand?
Yes, I do. Now, can I tap into that knowledge that I'm assuming I'm learning there?
Yes, you can, if it really applies into your present life. However, if it is something that does not immediately apply, then there may be a little bit of difficulty. But you can tap into whatever portion may apply. It is simply that we are suggesting you do not put necessarily upon it the expectation that all of it must apply. Because all of it probably will not. Understand?
What if I want it?
Well, you can tap into it, as we have said. But by definition, because you are the light you are here, you will get whatever portion of it will work for you here. Otherwise, it wouldn't serve a purpose. Understand?
I got it. Would I know if that portion is what I'm coming from there?
Does it really matter?
Not really.
Sometimes you may, and sometimes you won't. But since it doesn't really matter, since you will simply be able to do what it is you need to do, the label many times will not be that important. You may know, and you may not know. But in effect, since it doesn't really matter, you can simply do what you want to do, with whatever it is, however it comes, in terms of information. Understand? You can use it, however. You can use it as a direction. If you know, let's say, in the way of suggestion, that the idea may hold something for you, then use it as a model. Whether it comes from there or not will not necessarily be crucial, but you can use it as a model to direct your basic thought. To simply use it as a model to form the idea you desire to experience. It can be used that way, and even as a model, it will allow the information to come from wherever it needs to come from, even if it doesn't come directly from the model you have represented. Understand?
Okay. Let's say I'm using my imagination there.
Okay?
Will that help me expand my imagination?
It can, yes. Again, remember that even though you don't necessarily have to analytically know everything that's going on in all of your lives to live the life you're living now, there is always what you may call bleed-through. Always. Each and every life you have hundreds, thousands, millions of experiences in ultimate dimensions of reality are all constantly feeding information to all other lives. It is holographic in nature, multidimensional in nature. There is information being exchanged between all of your aspects simultaneously, and whatever portions of the information apply to any one particular aspect are the portions that stick in that particular life. Understand? So, to use a further analogy, the idea may simply be that sometimes when you find yourself being inspired by something that seems to be out of the blue, as you say, that inspiration may directly be connected into a realization or discovery that, let's say, a future you has made. Understand? Does that assist you?
Yes.
Oh, well, very welcome. Thank you. Yes.
Bashar,
Hey.
I've been, from after the creating your own reality,
Yeah.
and one time I heard you say that everything in reality is creating, like what somebody else has to do, what you say to them,
Yes.
is God.
You are attracting it into your reality, co-creating it with them. Now, there could be different reasons for this, but you are, and must be of, agreement in order to experience anything.
Right.
As,
What I'm trying to understand more is cultivating, the idea of cultivating with another person.
Okay.
That person's creating their reality, and you're creating your reality.
Okay.
And you both think that,
you obviously do have, to some degree, a consensus reality on some level. Otherwise, you wouldn't even perceive each other. You are obviously agreeing to something. Do not forget, all of you now, we perceive, are sitting in what you would call some sort of a room, yes? You all have to agree that you are in order to experience that similarity. So, obviously, on some level, there are already many things you all agree are the definitions of the reality you call your physical universe. It is in some specifics that you disagree. But even sometimes when you disagree, you do not necessarily disagree to the point where you don't experience at all what they are talking about. You can allow them their experience of it. You can acknowledge that it exists for them, while it may not fit directly into your life. You can still recognize that it is, quote-unquote, a real reality for them, even if it's not your lifestyle. Individuals who literally, directly, do not perceive the consensus reality are usually what you label insane. Now, they are perceiving realities that are just as real. It is simply that those aspects are not part of the consensus reality. But it is just as real. The reason that more often than not they have what you call difficulty in their lives is because your society teaches them and has taught them from birth that what they are experiencing is not valid. They know it's real. They can't fight that. But the society you are in does not give them a way to communicate that information in an applicable way, in an applicable manner, so they lock themselves in their own cycle, their own perceptions, their own private world, and become discommunicated from your planet, from your society. They become somewhat removed from the general consensus. Somewhat. Obviously, to some degree, they agree on some level, otherwise you wouldn't even perceive them at all if they didn't. Now, that is why you have all recognized that there's a very fine line between what you call insanity and genius. Because a genius is seeing different realities, perceiving different ideas, in every way, shape, or form. Sometimes is what you call the insane individual. It is simply that the genius has found a way to communicate in an applicable manner the ideas they are perceiving to the mainstream of your society. Understand? That is really the only difference. Now, does that answer some of your questions or some specific idea you wish to discuss?
Well, I think there's another idea along with
Oh,
that.
right.
It's like stagnant consciousness created.
Yes. Yes.
How real is that?
How real?
I understand. It's really real to me that
Yes.
everything that I'm creating.
Yes.
But I really just don't always understand why.
Well, all right. One simple way, one simple methodology to begin to allow yourself to understand is to simply ask yourself, all right, I have co-created the situation or created the situation. First, own it. If you don't own it, you can't know it. You can't transform it if you don't own it first. Once you have owned it, ask yourself, what am I learning about myself by being in this circumstance? What belief system within me is this situation showing me I have? Is it showing me a belief system I no longer prefer? If that is the case, therefore, obviously one of the main reasons why the situation is happening is to show me I have a belief I don't prefer, because that belief created this reality, and now that I am consciously aware of what that belief is, I can change it. I can rewrite it. I can redefine it. And in redefining it, it will rewrite the physical experience I will have. That can be one reason. But simply ask yourself in any given circumstance that you are wondering why you are in, what am I learning about myself? What am I experiencing here? What type of a belief would I have in order to create this reality? Then it will put you in touch, usually, with exactly what you need to be looking at. Because the idea of an unconscious and a conscious mind is also only your invention. An unconscious mind is not an inherent creation. It is a convenience of definition that all of you have created to have a place to put things you don't want to look at consciously. You are not really composed of a sub and unconscious reality. You are one consciousness. So the idea is to simply recognize that physical reality and physical experiences are your way of safeguarding that you will always allow eventually anything you have relegated to your unconscious mind to be shown to you in a way that will allow you to bring it into your conscious realization. Because that's what physical reality is, a reflection of your strongest belief. Now, on the surface, when certain situations and circumstances happen to you, if it seems as if what is going on is negative, remember that many times that doesn't necessarily mean that's a one-to-one reflection of the fact that you're doing something negative. It can be that sometimes you attract individuals into your reality that seem to be functioning negatively. So perhaps, if you know you are functioning positively, you can serve as a living example to them how they might also choose to change into a positive manifestation. Just because an individual is attracted into your reality that is functioning negatively doesn't mean that you are. Understand? But it's still a co-creation for a purpose, for a reason that may serve you both. So simply ask yourself, what belief would I have to create this reality? What am I learning about myself in this interaction? Understand? That will usually give you the understanding of why what is going on is going on. Because remember, life doesn't happen to you, it happens through you. Does that serve? Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
What is the best way to get rid of those programs within us that prevent us from really material?
Oh, thank you. Now, first of all, just a little bit of redefinition. You cannot really get rid of anything. I know what you mean. But many times when individuals in your society say, I'd like to get rid of this, it really means they would like to push it away as if it had no purpose in their lives at all. Many times that idea, that attempt to get rid of something is a denial. Therefore, if you recognize there is no outside, there is nowhere to get rid of anything to, then it will begin to perhaps dawn on you that what you're doing is not getting rid of it, you are transforming it from a negative into a positive. It's the same energy, but it will take on a different aspect, a different space, a different presentation. To have not gotten rid of it, but to no longer experience the negative effect from it. Understand the difference? Now, one of the simplest ways to transform a negative into a positive is, once again, as we have said, ask yourself, what are you being told by yourself by being in that circumstance? What belief systems do you have that would have created the situation? If you find that it is because you had a negative definition, a negative belief, then simply, once you are in touch with what that belief is, literally, in your imagination, rewrite it. Ask yourself, well, if this is the belief I had, what belief would I prefer to have? I prefer to have this belief. And watch yourself. Sometimes an individual will still create a negative. In other words, as an example, you might be dealing with the idea, I never succeed. I never succeed. I never. Now, if you get in touch with that, an individual might, in rewriting it, still be tempted to say, I do not never succeed. But that's still a negative. It is still a denial. Rather than simply saying, the absolute polarity, I always succeed. I always succeed. And here is where it can get a little bit fine line. Watch your definition of success. Because many of you have different definitions of what that type of a word means. So, many of you may find that even when you say, I always succeed, you may create an expectation of what that's supposed to be like, and if you don't see it the way you expected it, you may not believe you're actually succeeding like you need to. Or, many of you may have a definition of success that's actually very scary for you, and therefore you don't really want to succeed, and that's why you don't. Clarity of definition is very critical about what it is you would prefer to be. Here is the whole formula as it basically stands. Clarity of intention. What is your overriding intention? Clarity of definition. How are you defining the terminology of your overriding intention? What are the definitions of these states of being that you say you do and don't prefer. Be clear on what they mean to you, what they represent to you. For example, again, some individual may say, I wish to be rich, I wish to be rich, I wish to be rich. And they are not getting abundant, they are not getting that at all. Then if they examine their definition of what it means to be abundant, all of a sudden it may dawn on them that they have been taught, or they have taught themselves through life to associate the idea of being rich with also carrying a personality trait that they don't want. Perhaps they have observed individuals in life that are rich, that perhaps act in manners they don't want to act in. And they have made, for some reason, an assumption that if I am rich, I have to act that way, because all the rich people I see act that way. So they are connecting something they don't want with something they do. In clarifying the definition, they can say, wait a minute, why must I assume that just because I might be rich, I would have to act that way? I don't have to assume that. Now that I am clear on what my definition has been, the assumption that to be rich is also to act in a way I don't want to, now I can redefine it. I can understand I can be rich in the way I want to be rich. And I don't have to be any way I don't want to be. Once the definition is clear, you can allow the reality to manifest more quickly. Because it is only your definition very often that keeps the reality away. Because you might assume it contains something you don't want along with something you do. Next, clear desire. Clear desire. In other words, do you really want it? Are you really sure you want it? Again, some individuals may not absolutely be sure they want the thing they say they want. Here's another example. An individual may have within them a belief that once they get what they want, why so? No more excitement. No more excitement of the chase. And if they believe that more strongly than the excitement of getting it, then they will always just prevent themselves from getting it because they believe that trying to get it is more exciting. Because they believe that once they get it, that's it. If you always understand there will always be more, you won't have to worry about that. But that may be one reason why an individual, even though they say, I want it, I want it, I want it, may not really clearly desire it. Third, in the middle of the 3D of definition and desire is clear deservability. Do you believe you deserve what you say you want? That's a big issue for many of you. Many of you do not think that you have a right to have what you desire. Because your society has steeped many of you in notions of guilt, in notions of worthlessness, in notions of having to struggle in order to earn happiness.
This conditioning, though, has been something that is years of conditioning.
Yes.
Now,
we are getting to that one more time. After you have a clear intention, clear definition, clear desire, clear deservability, the only thing that really remains is clear action. And all that simply means is, once you know what your intention, definition, desire, and deservability are, acting with conviction on the opportunities that come into your life that excite you is all it takes to bring you what you want. Now, I brought up the issue of habits, patterns. All right, we recognize that your society has been conditioned for thousands, millions of years. So what? Now, let me explain. A habit, a pattern, in that sense that you call a habit, is something you do that you don't know you're doing. Once you recognize you have a habit, you don't have it anymore. Because you have to be beyond it in order to know you have it. It is only your assumption that the recognition of a habit is not the cessation of the habit that allows you to keep repeating what you have always done. It is only your assumption that it must keep repeating itself that allows it to keep repeating. Understand? Once you know you have a habit, at that moment of realization, you no longer have the habit. And only your assumption that you still do allows you to keep experiencing your life as if you still do. But if you know you have broken it because you have recognized it, then allow yourself to understand you are beyond it. As soon, here's where the clear action comes in, as soon as you know you are beyond it, and you use your imagination to picture how you would prefer to act, all you have to do is act that way. And you will get that result. Now, what do I act upon? Many of you say. Here it is. Plain and simple. What you call in your life the feeling of excitement is always the thing to act upon first. Absolute conviction of action, you will effortlessly and abundantly always automatically be supported in the doing of that thing. Always. There are no exceptions. None. Everything else, and that you are always in the right place at the right time, interacting with exactly all the individuals it is appropriate for you to interact with. To represent your ability of service to them in the way they need to be served, and to represent your ability to be served by them automatically in the way you need to be served. You are always in the right place at the right time, always. But always that place and time is representative of what you believe most strongly in will be the reality you can expect. Understand? Remember that you are always using trust. We are telling you to do something you have never done before. We are not telling you to do something you don't know how to do. When we say use trust, act with conviction on these things, you have always used trust to create everything in your reality. Just depends upon whether you trust in negativity or positivity. But you have always used the mechanism of trust to create your experiential reality. What you trust in most is what you get. Understand? Does that serve you?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Okay.
Part of those being living in a parallel universe.
Yes. Okay.
How do we know which universe we're living at in more sense currently?
All of them. Do you mean within your particular time frame? Again, you can get in touch with them through your meditation, if you wish. Understand?
Yes. How long does this time frame go? Is it infinity?
Okay. But when we talk about your time frame, we are referring specifically to the idea, if this is what you ask, about a cross-section that represents your present. In other words, you have counterpart aspects existing, coexisting presently with you in many different dimensions of experience, but you also have coexisting aspects in many other time frames that you might call the past and the future as well. Understand? Some of them are simply your contemporaries, and some of them are not. Is this making some sense to you?
It's a question. Why do I feel now in this planet here and not feel the other aspects?
Because this is the definition of who you are here. They feel themselves to be, in that sense, focused on themselves. And you are nebulous to them, because that's the definition of this experience. Some experiences are aware of more than one aspect of themselves. But the definition, at least the definition that has existed in your physical reality, is to be focused only as the persona you imagine yourself to be in any one life at a time. That's the definition of your physical reality, and that's why you're only aware of the particular persona you are at this moment, rather than being aware of many of the personas you are simultaneously. But your society now is changing its view of consciousness, and many of you are becoming more aware of many of the other simultaneous personas you are. Understand? It has simply been your habit of definition to create the idea of yourself to be the only persona there is. So that's what you get, that limitation of focus. Understand? Does that answer your question? Well, thank you very much. Yes?
Bashar, I would like to add a question onto that.
No, what?
Are you saying then the more expanded our consciousness, the more likely we are to be aware of other existences
Yes.
that are occurring at the same time?
Yes. Not that you necessarily need all the details. Otherwise, you would not necessarily be able to remain focused in this particular reality. But you will be more aware of the fact that you have an infinite number of connections.
Would we also have connections with certain persons or other personas that we are connected to at this existence? In other words,
Yes.
so
That is what is literally called counterparts.
So that people that we would feel very close to, or we would, the cliches of soulmate, the cliches of I feel like I've known you before, or I feel like I know you now.
It can be that. It doesn't have to be that. Sometimes you do not necessarily, or have not necessarily, liked a counterpart of your own soul. Now, that is not something that has to be that way, but it has happened. But yes, generally speaking, it can be for that reason, although it does not directly have to be. You can have formed association with what you simply may refer to as another soul in so many different lifetimes that you're simply extremely familiar with each other, and that recognition can come from that as well. Even though, of course, on one fundamental level, everyone is the same one soul. Understand? Does that answer your question?
Yes,
Well, thank you very much, Sherry.
Bashar,
Yay!
would that be along the same line of thinking of what you don't like in someone else may be what you don't like within yourself and you fail to
Correct.
recognize it?
Correct.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Now, although you can recognize a preference, and a preference does not necessarily have to be an invalidational judgment. In other words, someone may be doing something very negative, and you may recognize that you don't prefer that in your life. You don't prefer to exhibit that in yourself, but you recognize you have that potential. Doesn't mean you're actually doing it. Doesn't mean you're not facing up to the idea that you are doing it and don't want to look at it just because you see it in someone else. The idea usually is that if it makes you uncomfortable, however, then there is some aspect of what they are doing that strikes a chord within you that you do need to look at. Whether it's identical to what they're doing or not is not always so. But if it makes you uncomfortable, if you cannot, in other words, allow them to be who they are unconditionally, knowing that what they are is not necessarily what you prefer to be, if it makes you uncomfortable, then perhaps that is an indication that there's something within yourself you're not looking at. Understand?
Yes.
Does that answer the question sufficient?
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much. Yes.
In your planet is your life form, physical form,
Yes.
finite or infinite?
In what sense do you mean that?
Are you chemical beings?
You would recognize it as such, although we as a society are now in a transition wherein we are coming from physicality and becoming non-physicality. You are going through your own transformation and becoming slightly less physical, what we refer to as fourth density physical. More energy, less dense material. We are already lighter bodies and are becoming non-physical altogether, although to some degree you would still translate our physical form as having a chemical counterpart that you would recognize as a physical body. We are of average 5 feet tall of your height in counting. Whitish gray, skin coloration. very wide, upturned eyes with very enlarged pupils. Males have no hair. Females have hair, usually tending to white, although there are some exceptions. We are rather slender in aspect. In your terminology, our bodily form would seem to be almost undeveloped to any great degree. The idea is, if you wish a similar analogy to any racial type you are familiar with upon your world, would be Mongolian, but not exact. Not exact. Similar, but not exact. Go back to.
How do you define your beginning or ending of your physical chemical being?
Oh, it can be measured in your terminologies of time. We are a soul in that sense, like you are. Not identically are we born into physical materiality, but similarly to you. And we have what you call an ending of the life, but it is under conscious control, conscious recognition. There is no pain involved. There is no old age involved. It is simply that when our purpose in expressing ourselves as a physical being is completed, we simply transform back into non-physicality, and the physical body, in that sense, reconverts into energy in a flash. There is no slow deterioration. Our average lifespan, although this can fluctuate, simply the lifespan that suits the general definition of our society, is approximately what you would call 300 of your years, in general. Understand? Does that answer the question? Yes, it can.
Good question.
Yes.
There's a star called Antares.
Yes.
I don't know if you would know this or not, but I wanted to find out if there was what type of life form.
Depends on what dimension you are talking about.
Physical.
There are many different degrees of physical dimensionality. We are not in your dimensional plane, and yet in a sense we can express ourselves with a degree of physicality. One moment. We will scan for the idea that seems to be closest to your vibrational frequency. None immediately in your dimensional frequency. However, in fourth density frequency, to some degree, transitional fourth density fifth, what you may call a quasi-physical reality, there is consciousness. It does not necessarily have an absolutely solid format. It can express itself similarly to what you would call a humanoid form. To some degree, we are what you would call humanoid, although if I may, I could say you are simply Epithani-ish. The idea is that they will mostly be what you would call an energy construct. They do not have a solid physical form as we perceive them. Understand? Does that assist you?
Bashar?
Good.
We call you Bashar, so
Okay.
it was described just in the beginning, but what is your real name on the planet as the sun?
As was also described to you, the word Bashar was chosen because we do not have names.
Oh.
We are telepathic. And therefore do not need, in that sense, to refer to one another by what you would call a linguistic manner. Now, we do have a remnant language that has not been used for quite some time. But since that remnant language went out of use before I became physical, I never had a name. Understand?
On our planet, we have a name that's given to us at birth.
Okay.
But do we also have names that correspond to our higher self? Or
Sometimes, yes.
Spiritual being?
Sometimes. And sometimes what you call the vibrational name that is given to you at birth can be representative of the overall vibration of the higher self or the oversoul. Doesn't necessarily have to be, but sometimes it can. Sometimes the individual will go through changes in life wherein they will recognize that their vibrational frequency has shifted and thereby desire to call themselves by a different name as a representation of the shift in frequency they now know they are exhibiting.
Sure.
Does that serve you?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
A number of us have used for many years, many lifetimes, whatever, for consciousness raising. We work with sounds, with words perhaps.
Okay.
Sounds.
Okay.
Of the old age, or the new age, could you tell us about meditation for the new age?
Well, the idea simply, especially with regard to what you call sound, is that everything is made of vibration. There is one primal energy. out of that energy, all differentiations of what you call material objects are created by simply different frequencies of the primal energy. The only thing that makes a this different from a that is the frequency of the vibration of the primal energy. So what you call sound, in that way, is simply one way to manifest the idea of vibration. Sound, in that sense, is very powerful in being able to create vibrational matrices, or if you wish, bubbles, that can allow a breakdown to occur within any particular universal matrix and allow there to be that matrix to go back to its pure state of vibrational resonance and then recreate the vibration within that matrix and allow anything else to be solidified out of it. Sound, in that sense, is one way to identify, to synchronistically align, to harmonize with the fundamental primal vibration of creation, and therefore through the idea of sound, you can transform and transmute any idea of physiological reality. That's what the original idea of incantations is all about. What you call incantations, magical incantations, are your society's memory of an earlier civilization's knowledge of what sound could actually do. Understand? Yes, no, maybe. Yes. Does that serve to answer the question sufficiently? Oh, thank you. What do you want?
Sure.
You, and then you.
Something totally different, maybe. We are living in a society whose economy is based on fossil fuel.
That
Is there any? Are we close to another kind of economy based on
people,
magnetism or
people, economy based on services? In a sense, as it used to be on your society, but in a more expanded way. But yes, in a sense, economy based on the idea that you will, as we perceive your energy within the next approximately 3 to 5 of your decades, be using the actual electromagnetic power of your planet in a way that will allow power to be available in unlimited quantities to anyone, anywhere, anytime. And you will not have the same economic system at all. In fact, you will have nothing that you recognize to be an economic system, even as we do not. Because everyone, in having that unlimited power, will be able to simply do what they need to do, and will simply interact with everyone else directly, being of service in the way they wish to be of service, and being served in turn directly, without the middle ground symbol of what you call material money. That is our perception of your energy as a society within the next 3 to 5 of your decades.
will it come through war and assassinations, or can it come through more peaceful means?
It can come any way you wish it to. Now, there may be here and there upon your planet a few of what you might call negative upsets. Eventually, it is our perception that within the next 30 of your years, it will all level out and begin to lay down a foundation where it can be done very peacefully and very quickly as a result. There may still be, up to the point you call your year 2011, 2013, some idea of what you call political skirmishes, economic skirmishes here and there upon your planet. Although, once again, it does not really have to be that way, but that's as we read the energy of your world now. But it is not necessarily a worldwide thing. In terms of a negative effect, what may seem to be at first a destruction of economy will eventually be understood to simply be a destructurization of your economy. And when it is understood as a destructurization, it will be understood that it no longer needs to be expressed as destruction. All of these things can be realized within the next 10 of your years. it is our perception they will all definitely be realized within the next 30. Understand?
Well, we can always program for a peaceful transition.
Yes, but the programming of it is not sufficient. The programming must also be linked with the action, because you live in a physical world. Therefore, programming is the first step, and then acting upon it, doing something in a positive way to bring it about. That is what it will take. You understand?
Thank you. Yes, it seems to be a very important facet of our life right now.
Well, they all are, yes. But all these things, as you say, are coming to a point now because you are in the transformational age, and there isn't very much time left in which to experience the transition. You are accelerating as a society at such a rate that you only have about 30 years in which to transform your entire society. Because your energy is starting to recrystallize again. You have put it into a limbo state, and now within the next 30 years it is going to recrystallize into whatever format it is in. At that time, it will solidify again. And the acceleration will be indicative of that reality at that time. Understand?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Ed.
Oh, okay. I was wondering if you about a health situation.
Help situation. Okay.
And we'll call it
Don't thank you very much.
because I get in trouble with you when I do that.
No, all right. Not with me, with yourself.
With myself. A year and a half ago, when I first started coming to the town, I started working on trying to explore and understand the excessive weight gains that I had and rapid. Discovered a lot of allergies were connected to it, to sugar and chocolate and caffeine, and began eliminating all of that from my diet, and then was able to stop binging. A lot of wonderful things happened with my health when I eliminated that, and was prepared then to go on to the fast that I've been on for the last 5 months. And that's very successful. A couple of months ago, I asked at the clinic if I could have something more to take some of the taste away than just the vanilla fasting. And they said, well, you can drink diet sodas and things made with chemical called nutrition. And I began doing that a little bit at a time, just to change the taste, to keep on the diet. A few weeks later, there was a discussion at the clinic that the NutraSweet mainly set off the same kind of insulin reaction in some people that chocolate and all the other real sugars.
Sometimes a different reaction because of what you define the idea to be as an artificial chemical.
Right. And so there was a part of me that said, I better be careful. But anyway, what started to happen was I began to crave more and more of the diet drinks. From 1 a week, it got to be a little bit 1 a day and more and more. And this week, I find myself in this very difficult situation with weight loss is going beautifully, but I'm starting to become hungry. I'm now almost in a struggle with staying compatible with the fast. I feel strongly that it has to do with the NutraSweet, that the insulin reaction has and stuff.
Remember that your bodily form now, because of your fast, is hypersensitive to any change. And therefore will react very quickly, especially with whatever portions of the mass conscious momentum is going to represent your own fears as well.
That's definitely happened. What I need some help with is I am attempting to stop this. I know now very strongly, and I talked to the doctor, he doesn't agree with me, and I don't care, but I feel very strongly that I need to get clear of all that NutraSweet. Like I did all the sugars.
Go ahead.
But I'm having a tough time doing that. I just finished a diet soda a few minutes before I saw it. Because there's that craving that's come up again that feels very...
But remember, when you define yourself at any given moment as the new person you prefer to be, if you really start acting like that person, it will usually only take approximately 3 of your days to no longer sense what the old person senses. Because you literally will not have the same urges that the old person has, because you will not be the old person. Literally. Again, this is not an analogy. A person, what you call yourself as a persona, remember, is an artificial construct, a projection of your consciousness. And any change you make in the definition of that person, even though you may think you look the same outwardly, makes you a different person literally. Literally. Now, as we have discussed, we know of societies that when they make a change in their personality, they outwardly look like a different person as well. Your society simply contains the convenience of maintaining an exterior example or projection that seems similar moment to moment to moment to moment to reinforce the sense of continuity that you desire in your reality. But you are a different person when you define yourself to be so. So, sit down, relax, create the definition of the person you desire to be, and remember, watch the negative. Don't frame the new definition in this format. I don't want to do that. That's a negative. Frame it in this way. I want this. Or I am this. Understand?
Yes.
Not I don't want to be that. I am this. Not I am not that. Sit down and redefine the person you desire now to be. Feel it with all of your senses. This is important. Get into it, as you say. Live it. Feel the excitement you know you would feel if you knew you were that person. Conviction, trust. If you really believed you were now that new person, you'd be excited, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Let yourself use all your senses. Feel it. Feel the level of frequency change. Feel it vibrate within you. Act like that person, and you will no longer have an urge that the old you used to have, because you will no longer be literally the old you. Understand?
Yes, and I, as you're speaking, realize that the new me looks very, very different, and that I have not been experiencing or allowing myself to experience excitement about this new body.
Why not?
Fear.
Yeah.
That I have been coming up, that I'm too busy to go shopping in clothes, I'm too busy to get
All
these
right.
free clothes
All
fitted
right.
in, and
Very good. You are discovering your definitions. Very good. Facing your fear will allow you to integrate the reasons why you have created fear.
I also feel one thing I feel very good about is that the old me
Yes.
would have gone into a real dread, horrifying, that fact that I was getting hungry, and I would blame a lot of psychological things on that, and listen to every doctor at the clinic tell me, you were really bad this week for even thinking that you wanted to eat something, and the new me is saying, wait a second, I feel a physiological thing going on. I've experienced this sugar thing before, and I know now that it's this new sweet thing that I'm going to be.
Yes. But now that, what you have just called the new you, is now going to be an old you. Understand?
Mm-hmm.
Because now you don't necessarily need to be the new you that believes there is difficulty in transforming the situation.
Mm-hmm.
You will now be a new you. Yes. Remember, every moment you are a new you. Every single moment. Any apparent carryover from the last moment is your choice to recreate those things from the last moment over again in the new. Understand?
Yes.
Redefine yourself. As clear as your definition is, will be the persona you will be. And if you really are that new persona, and act like it and feel it, You will not have the feelings, the beliefs, the thoughts, the experiences, the urges of the old you. They simply won't be there. So you won't have to worry about it. It's not a matter of, how can I stop? It's a matter of being someone who doesn't have those urges. So it's not even a question. It won't even come up. Of course I don't have to worry about how to stop. I don't do that. I never have. Understand? That is what it really means to be a new you. You have a new history. You never have had that difficulty. Understand?
Yeah, I understand that I will spend some time myself integrating.
If you insist. Why would you need to spend some time?
I know.
It's up to you. You don't have to do it instantly if you don't want to.
Just have fun, but tired of old stuff.
Oh, all right.
Set up with this stuff.
All
If I can change in the next 2 seconds,
All
I'll
right.
go shopping in San Francisco.
Thank you. Remember, you have just pointed out a technique, a process that many of you use many times, and that is, you may not allow yourself to really believe you can change instantly until you finally get tired enough of the way you don't want to be. That's just the way some of you do. You have to get good and sick and tired of it before you will finally say, all right, all right, all right. Had enough. I'll change. Always, we are, in that sense, willing to enjoy interacting with you in any way, shape, or form. And at this time, you may simply enjoy your break. We will resume contact with you in approximately what you call 10 of your minutes. Okay, continue. Good. All right. Can be a few different ideas. One may simply be an individual that has been brought up in your life to believe, or may have carried with them from another life a belief that you do not necessarily fit in this life, do not necessarily belong in this life. And the idea of the allergy may be a rejection reaction to the natural surrounding of things you find in this life. The idea that you do not necessarily fit in smoothly and find yourself rejecting and being rejected by nature in that sense. All right. The idea always can represent a hypersensitivity to certain things. Now, may I ask you a personal question? Oh, thank you very much. What does the idea of perfume symbolize to you? What does it represent? What does it mean? What meaning have you given to it?
Artificiality.
Oh, then that is something you wish to reject. That is something you wish to ensure doesn't happen to you. That you do not express yourself with artificiality. Now, not that this is necessarily specifically the case or all the aspects to it, but sometimes, as an example of this analogy, some individuals will develop an allergic reaction to things, once again, as we talked about to some degree before, to things they do not want to have in their life, and believe for one reason or another that if they do not develop an absolute barrier to it, that they might somehow let it creep in, that they might somehow be affected by it, that they might pick a symbol to represent all the things they don't want and develop a symbolic allergic reaction to it. Now, If you recognize that this idea might represent something that you simply do not want to become, then you do not necessarily have to create such a strong rejection symbol for it. You can simply recognize it is not your preference. And in recognizing it is not your preference, you don't have to necessarily create such a strong dichotomy between yourself and the symbol. You can simply know beyond a shadow of a doubt and in all assurance that if it isn't your preference, you will not be created in your reality. You will not become that thing. And you do not need to create such a strong insurance through the reaction that you will not adopt that into your lifestyle. Understand? It is not the idea of the perfume itself, but what it represents to you. And therefore, if you simply know what it means, what meaning you have given this symbol, and simply understand that that idea, that essence is not what you want in your life, that you do not prefer it, then simply know, because you have chosen to not prefer it, you will not express it. And you don't have to worry about expressing it against your choice. And in that sense, you can allow the substance or the symbol that has represented your fear to carry the physical reaction that it has. Understand? Once you know what a symbol means to you, once you understand what meaning you have given to a symbol, for no symbol has its own meaning. No symbol has built-in meaning. They are all neutral. They don't mean anything. You give them the meaning you have been taught to give them. Once you understand what meaning you have given it, and can extract the essence out of it in another way, then that symbol does not have to continue to create the same idea, the same reaction in your life. It can transform. Understand?
Yes.
Does that serve you?
Yes, it does.
And the other idea you wish to defend?
My father died in April of 1984, and my mother died in May of 1986. So after the day reincarnated. Yes.
Name,
Paul and Lucille Amster.
ages in your county.
When they died, they were,
Okay.
Daddy was 87 and mother was 89.
No. It is our perception that they are still experiencing, under what we might call tutelage, the idea of getting used to non-physical reality and beginning to explore many different variations on that theme. Time to time have functioned as spirit guide for you, as reminder for you, along with many other guides in that sense. But it is our perception from our point of view that they mostly have retained, in your terms of thinking of them, the them you are used to thinking of them as, non-physicality. Understand? All we are saying is that obviously on some level they have physical aspects, because all lives are simultaneous. But the way you are used to thinking of them, the beings you think of them as, have not reincarnated. Understand?
Yes.
Does that?
Yes. Thank you.
Bashar. You! Then you!
I have a question about your race.
Yes.
Do you reproduce?
Yes. Similar but not identical.
I also have a question about your physiology.
Yes.
How do you need to eat?
Not anymore. Now it's mostly a direct energy absorption. There used to be the consumption of what you call physiological food, much in a similar manner as you, and then it came down to a very simplified version of this idea in the following manner. Our society, out of its mass consciousness, created what you would call a natural artificial food. It took the form similar to what you would call a vegetable form. And it was not natural to the planet to begin with, but we created it with our mentality, and in that sense, it was not artificial, it was natural, and that is true. We ate of this substance and sustained our society with all the nutrients it required for quite some time, until now it has grown out of the need for any symbolic form of sustenance and derive the sustenance directly from life itself. That is because we are becoming non-physical as a society. As someday you will become. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you
similar in the sense that there is gestation, what you call the child is carried in the female womb. But the idea of conception is now more of an energy act. There is touching. There can be in that way physiological touching and intimacy. But the idea is more of an exchange of energy that allows what you call the seed within the female to spontaneously generate and carry all the traits that it needs to create the crystallized physical form that will represent the projection of consciousness into our society. Approximately your terms of time, the gestation period will be 7 of your months and not 9. It is born without the pain, in a similar fashion, easily, and we are in telepathic contact with the child before it becomes physical, during, and afterward. Upon the idea you would call approximately 3 of your years of age, the child is sufficiently oriented into the physical reality they have been born into, and allowed, in that sense, to simply go about their business, interacting with whatever individuals they need to pick up the knowledge they need to pick up, to be the people they have decided to be in our society. Since we are always telepathically connected, no one is ever in your terms out of sight. All adults are the parents of all children. All children are the children of all. Understand? Does that answer your question? So you think?
Thank you, Bashar. My wife and I are expecting our first child.
Boy.
And I'm wondering, either in specific or in general terms, what spirit or being will we have with the physical?
Well, you can get in touch consciously. Have you not had conversations in your dream reality already with what seems to be a very familiar energy? Very familiar energy?
No, I haven't.
No, you have, but you're not aware of it. Allow yourself to recognize again that it is not a child right now, so to speak. It is, like you, fully alert and conscious being. Allow yourself in your dream reality to be aware of that communication. Get in touch with it. It is a being you have had many lives with before in various ways, various circumstances, taking turns being each other's different members of different families and friends and associates. It is simply now your turn to be the parent, its turn to be the child. Get in touch with the feeling, the essence of the agreement you have made. You can feel, think of the child. Think of the idea of the child when you go to sleep. And allow yourself to be open to communication so that when you wake up, give it 3 days. You will then start to retain images, feelings, aspects of the conversation you are having so that you can remember the agreement you made to have this child. Now, some of it may come in terms of flashes of what you may recognize as past lives in which you have been together before. And therefore, by getting those images, it will tell you something of the relationship that you have had. And sometimes I can tell you something of the relationship you will have. Understand?
Yeah.
Does that assist you?
Yes. The second question is related to the child. You're here sharing your experience of wisdom, strength, and openness, which to me is a very spiritual act.
Well, it's only a reflection of your own wisdom and strength and spirituality.
I perceive that as being part of my function in having a child in this world.
Yes, it is one way.
And I'm wondering what you've already led into the question. What are the other ways?
To do what excites you the most with integrity. That's it. The thing that excites you the most is the complete fulfillment of the life you chose to live. Many of you ask the question, what is my purpose in life? What is my meaning? How do I fulfill my purpose? It is very easily answered. Remember that even though you are a reincarnational being, you have never been this you before, and you will never be this you again. So, the fundamental purpose to this life is to live this life as fully as you can. And the way you do that is by doing the things that excite you the most with integrity. That's it. Understand? So, having a child is one way. Any other way that occurs to your imagination that represents a very exciting thing to do, do it.
That's the fulfillment of your purpose. That's how you will be of best service. But if you're not being fully yourself, you can't be of anyone else, can you? Does that answer the question? Thank you very much.
Bashar.
Yeah.
My question is, you're familiar with our space program here?
To some degree.
My question is there other life form on other planets than our universe?
What are you referring to as a universe? We perceive that your nomenclature may be misunderstood.
Our solar system.
And you are referring to the planets that orbit your central star. That is a solar system. Universe is everything everywhere.
So I have to explain my universe.
Yes. But you can still call the whole thing a universe. Or if you wish, a multiverse.
Okay.
There is a solar system, galaxy made of many solar systems, universe made of many galaxies, multiverse made of many universes.
About Milky Way galaxy.
Yes. Of many solar systems. In what you call Milky Way galaxy, there are many expressions of life force. Yes.
Is there any that we can obtain or we can reach by our means now?
No.
Okay.
Except by the means you possess naturally, and that is your consciousness. No. Understand that there is no other indigenous life in your dimension on any other planet in your solar system. There is life on other planets in your solar system in other dimensional planes. But you have to have a quote-unquote technology in order to shift your dimensional frequency in order to experience them. But in your dimensional plane, there is no life that you would experience as life on any other planet in your solar system. At least not in terms of what you would call a sentient being.
Or other life forms? Or
Are you talking about the idea of your attempt at radio communication? Or are you talking about, once again, your actual space vehicular program?
I guess the way that we are able to communicate now with other life forms and other
Radio.
yeah.
It has not completely given up. But understand something. In terms of utilizing radio reception, it is not conducive to necessarily perceiving many other life forms. First of all, radio technology, in our experience, usually occupies a very brief period in the history of any technological civilization. Not every civilization expresses itself technologically as you have either. There are many other ways that communication can occur without being radio in nature. And thereby, if they do not radiate as a civilization radio waves, there will be nothing for you to receive. Also, the amount of civilizations within what you would call the immediate neighborhood of stars, many of them are either not yet at the point where they have radio technology, nor is that an assurance that they will develop it, and the majority of them are already beyond radio technology. Or not sending anymore on that frequency that you are listening on. So, in a sense, you exist, for lack of a better term, in a radio desert. Now, not really, because if you begin to realize that the way you will tap into an absolute cacophony of communication is by using your mind, you will understand that the vast majority of consciousness we are in touch with communicate telepathically. And when your scientists begin to add consciousness into their equations, they will begin to receive the communication, even as communication is being received through the present channel. Many of you now think that this is a very esoteric form of communication, if you believe that it is real at all. But what you are perceiving is actually the standard methodology of communication. Because human, I will say, or any living being, is the best receiver and sender there already is. So why not use it? The mind is infinite in that way. Why not use the wavelengths that already are connected everywhere? Those of consciousness itself. That is how the vast majority of civilizations we are aware of actually communicate. Understand?
Yes. I think that we're searching more for a physical contact.
Yes. And in a sense you will get it. But the idea will go hand in hand, usually, with an understanding of consciousness. And basically for the following reason. Since every single civilization really exists on its own frequency band, no two civilizations actually ever meet or are capable of meeting each other in what seems to be a face-to-face encounter until those civilizations match frequency. And therefore that is an act of consciousness. Understand?
Mm-hmm. So I don't think, I don't know if this is true, I don't foresee that happening in my lifetime yet.
Oh yes. Very likely. Again, within the next 30 of your years. Now, you understand something. Your society has already been physically contacted by many of them.
Correct.
Just very sporadically for now. And do remember, your governments are very, very, very well aware of our existence.
But deny it.
Yes. Because of what you have created your government structure to be. Because of what our societies represent to the way of thinking you have created your society to be, the majority of your society does not want interaction with what you think we represent. Because it would mean an absolute and abrupt change of almost everything you know. And many of you are simply not ready for that. However, you are accelerating at a very, very, very great pace. And as you perceive your energy now, within approximately the next 3 decades, that will be sufficient. And we will be interacting very pleasantly with you.
Is there any way that I myself can interact with another extraterrestrial?
It is possible that any of you can. But first, be very clear about the idea of who you are and why you want that. Because it will demand an equality of you. Secondly, one of the easiest ways, if you wish that interaction in a blatant way, on an individual level, is to be somewhere alone. Out where you can be reached. Understand?
Yes.
Conducive to this is being somewhere out in the middle of one of your deserts.
Are you like saying that I can go out there and like meditate to meet somebody?
Yes. It is far more likely that you will be met that way than remaining in what you would call a crowded city. Understand, many of you are under the notion that it is extremely simple for us to simply pop in and out where we wish. It can be done, but it is still easier to make contact with someone when they are not surrounded by an entire city of people who do not necessarily need that contact. Understand?
Yes.
So being alone obviously is more conducive. Not that it guarantees it, but it is more conducive. Understand?
Yes.
Well, thank you very much.
Bashar,
You!
kind of talking the same subject, but the universe or space.
Yeah.
We've gone as far as theory of relativity.
Okay.
We still don't know.
You have gone farther than that.
But the limits are still not defined in human physics or science.
Not all of them, no.
You know, we're going into cold space and all these theories, but why aren't we sure that our consciousness is not opening up to understand?
In a sense, correct. You are simply limited by older definitions that you have not yet worked your way through.
Can you describe the real physical or level of the universe as it exists, or?
Well, to some degree, although of course that will be somewhat of an analogy. Our perception is that it is all right here, right now, within you. It is holographic in nature. That simply means that any one point contains the totality of the whole. To put it on another level, traveling in outer space is actually traveling within. It is understanding the following idea. Everything is the same one thing, manifesting itself in all the multitudinous, multidimensional ways it simultaneously can. So experiencing anything, any portion of the whole, is a matter of adjusting your frequency to that portion. And then you will experience that portion right here where you are. Understand?
Yes.
Does that explain it to some degree?
Yes, so basically we have to expand our consciousness first.
Yes. Yes. I mean, you can do it physiologically as you have been doing it, but because your exploration, if it remains in the physiological realm of time and space, will then by definition take more time. To expand the consciousness, to include space and time within it, will mean you can traverse the idea of space and time in an instant. Because distance is only as you define it to be. Yes, in a sense, what you call the speed of light is the definitional barrier of one particular universal frame of reference, but that doesn't mean you can't go around it. Because it is only the definition of one universal frame of reference. It is a limit within that universe, but you can always enter another idea. In a sense, picking yourself up out of the universe and redepositing yourself anywhere else in it, without necessarily truly having traveled in that universe to get there. So it's not like you're really violating the speed of light. In a sense, you're avoiding the issue altogether. Understand?
Yes, and there's a question of how,
Okay.
in your definition, the expanding and compression of the universe,
Okay.
in a psychical basis, how do you define that?
Again, it goes back to the fact that everything is vibration. Everything is vibration. Let's put it this way. If you have an object in one location, and you measure in every way, shape, and form that you can the vibrational signature of that object, that same object will have a slightly different vibrational signature in this location. Therefore, to us, the idea of location is not a space and time that the object exists within. Location is one of the vibrational properties of the object itself. It is one of the vibrational definitions of the object itself. If you can isolate that vibrational variable in the vibration equation the whole object is, and replace that vibrational variable with one that represents the vibration of a location somewhere else, then the object, by definition, will simply have to cease existing at one spot and take up residence at the other spot you have imposed the vibrational location upon it of. Understand?
Yes.
Does that explain the issue? It is a matter of redefining the self. And when you redefine the self that completely, you must also automatically redefine the where and the when of you. Because that's a part of the overall definition that you are. It's not a space you actually exist in. Where and when you are, location in time and space, is actually a part of the definition you are. So change that definition, and you change your location in time and space. That's how you expand, quote unquote, and collapse the universe. You're simply redefining what it is to you, or, I shall say perhaps more precisely, what the universe is within you.
Did our past civilizations know about that?
Some past civilizations on your planet did, yes. In fact, a few of what you call UFO sightings are actually from civilizations on your own planet, both past and future. Understand?
No.
Take it as I have said it. Some of what you call UFO sightings, understand, spacecraft that you may see in the sky, are not from other planets. They are from your own planet, from civilizations in the past that have transcended time, or civilizations in your own future that have transcended time.
Where do they come from?
Earth.
I mean, on our planet, where are they hiding?
They are not hiding.
I mean, not hiding, but I mean...
They are in what you call your future. Understand?
And
or your past.
They're transcending time.
They are transcending through time.
That's a good trick.
It is a very simple thing to do when you understand that time is within you.
Mm-hmm.
Understand?
Yes.
Does that satisfy the question?
Just bring more questions.
All right. Yes.
I have a side of me that delights in hearing you, and I have another side of me that I wish wouldn't be listening to you because it gets all crazy with ideas.
All crazy with ideas? What's wrong with being crazy with ideas?
Well,
I am crazy with ideas myself. I enjoy being crazy with ideas.
Yes, I do too, unfortunately.
Why unfortunately?
I have, my life is wonderful.
Yes.
Everything has come together so beautifully.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
Then why is it unfortunate?
Because when I hear you talk about all the possibilities that exist, and that we can have whichever ones we want and put energy into them, then I go crazy imagining all of these exciting ideas.
Yes. So.
And
do the one you are capable of doing.
Well, but then I start telling myself I should be doing these others because they're more expanded, they serve people better. They
oh, my. I have a very simple formula for you. It begins with a question. Answer the question any way you wish. Your answer will not be wrong, but I am looking for a specific answer. Some of you know this, so keep quiet. What is the most important thing of all?
Serving consciousness, raising consciousness.
Correct, but not the answer I seek. Would you like to give another answer? What is the most important thing of all?
Raising my consciousness.
Correct, but not the answer I seek. Would you like one more opportunity? I'll give you 3. What is the most important thing of all?
What I want to do.
Correct, but not the answer I seek. Repeat after me. What is the most important thing of all?
What is the most important thing of all?
The thing
I am doing
now. That's it. Whatever it is you are doing in your life right now is the thing you need to be doing. When you fully extract from the now whatever it is you need to get out of the now you are living in, that will accelerate your ability to create the next, more expanded now. So by all means examine all the probable realities. That's what your imagination is for. But remember that whatever it is you are doing now is the most important thing of all. And if you do it fully, that's what will most quickly get you into the circumstance to do any and all of the other things you have imagined. Living in the present is where you belong. That's what paradoxically accelerates your ability to have any other kind of reality you desire. but only when you don't deny that what you're doing now is what you need to be doing. Understand?
That's when I'm most happy.
Yes.
When I accept that.
Yes.
I've been writing letters to myself. It's not a use for my computer file. I write letters to myself from the point of view of my higher self.
Yes. Very good.
And so I write to Ron and I explain to him how it is.
Very good. Do you know what you have done? I'll tell you, right? You have, in a sense, predated, symbolically, the whole idea that your society will discover about when it utilizes, quote-unquote, invents, the notion you have called artificially intelligent computers. What you will discover in creating these artificially intelligent computers is that you will simply have created a mechanical symbol through which you will allow yourself to communicate with your higher self. That's what will be talking to you through the computers. Understand? Mm-hmm. So you have, in a sense, created that scenario already for yourself to some degree, predating the idea of your artificially intelligent computer. The idea, again, remember, is in the now, in living in the now, to simply, at any given moment, do the thing that excites you the most, that you are capable of doing something about with integrity. And it will automatically lead you to every other thing you will ever do that excites you, because excitement is a thread. It is connected to all other excitement. And you will miss out on none of it. You don't have to be in such a rush. You don't have to be scattered. If something really excites you and represents the life you truly have created, you will find the time to do it, because you create your own destiny, and you cannot miss a date with destiny, by definition. So there is no rush. Have all the time in creation, because you create all the time. Relax. Live in the now and do the thing you can do that excites you the most. It will lead you into the capability to do whatever else will come along that will represent your expanded idea of what then, at that point, is exciting to you. Understand? Well, thank you very much.
Yes, I have one more. Not about me. My daughter just went with us to the ashram that we went to for a week.
Okay.
And had a real spiritual awakening, and just absolutely alive and excited about herself.
And she has had many lives in the area you call India.
No, that's where she's going. She's going over there now for a...
she will discover many things that are familiar.
Oh, good. But, what she told us today was interesting, because she went through a period where she thought she was really crazy because she was frightened and...
I wonder where she got the idea of being crazy.
I don't know. I think because she was so frightened of it all.
Yes. She
did
trust it.
Yeah, she did not. Nor did we.
All right.
And now she says, I'm experiencing exactly the same thing, but has this new framework, which is that she's spiritually awakened and moved on through all of the synchronicities and pointing them all out. But she's so loose. She seems so loosely wrapped.
She will balance out.
I have a little concern about how she'll handle the ashram in India.
It will be all right, don't worry. It will balance out. Remember, what she has going for her is a familiarity with the area. She will be at home, and you know that when you're in your own home, you can be as crazy as you want and you're still safe. Understand?
I sure am.
So simply understand that she is in her own home in that area. She will balance out.
Okay.
Trust, trust, trust.
Yes,
And understand.
Bashar.
You and then you. Female.
Bashar, I have two questions. One is that my sister and brother-in-law went down in a private plane last year, and It took 6 months for them to be found.
No, right?
And the plane was found, they were killed on impact.
Yeah.
It's been very unsettling for me in thinking of that. It was so abrupt, and yet they were found only 3 minutes away from their home. And it was just strange, the whole play. Is there anything you can tell me about that?
May I ask you a question?
Sure.
If, as obviously they did, on one level or another, decide that was the timing to end the physical life and become non-physical, would you prefer that they had lingered?
Would I prefer that they had lingered?
Yes. In other words, would you prefer that the death was slow and or painful?
No.
Oh, I then. Allow the idea to sink in that everyone has chosen the timing of the death, and that individuals who many times create that particular form of death do so because, in your terminology, it is rapid. And because, at the time, in a sense, they are doing something they love to do. Understand?
Yes.
And therefore, I shall say it this way: they go out in style. They go out flying. I do not mean to be making a joke. You understand?
I do.
It is simply that everyone has the timing already in that sense set. Not necessarily the time, but the timing. Therefore, individuals who simply know when their timing is through in that sense in the physical plane, and who have no need to experience the lessons and ideas of those methodologies which would cause lingering or cause pain, will simply be quick and efficient and get on with it.
So that it was an appropriate ending rather than an interruption.
There are no interruptions.
No accidents?
None.
Never.
Never.
Suicide?
Suicide, to some degree, what you call conscious suicide, to some degree represents what might be at best termed a postponement. But usually, in what you call 99.9% of those cases, once having returned to the state of non-physicality in which they originated the choice of that life, they will project themselves right back into physical materiality, born all over again into exactly the same circumstances, in order to face it and understand that there is no running from it, and that they do not have to create negativity in the life, that they can create the life they prefer. Suicide in that sense may be considered to some degree the only exception to what we have said, but even then, it still can serve as a part of the learning experience of the soul, and does not necessarily have to be seen as an actual interruption, but may be simply more of a diversion. Understand?
Yes, I do.
Because ultimately, it will be worked out. Whether it takes 1, 2, 3, or a large number of lives, it will be worked out. But in the overall sense, no. There are no accidents. No.
Thank you. I have one more question too. If one is afraid of encountering an extraterrestrial,
Yes.
And one is not clear about their intent or doesn't have a trust, would it be very likely that someone would approach someone who had that kind of fear or that kind of distrust?
No. Now, sometimes you will find that some of the contacts between members of your society and members of extraterrestrial society will bring up a great deal of fear within the members of your society. However, let's look at it this way and put it in relative perspective. Anything you are aware of that we have labeled the fear that may come up in one of the members of your society in such an interaction will usually actually represent a very small amount of fear that might remain in the individual. No matter how much fear that individual may seem to be exhibiting, that contact is usually not undertaken unless there is actually not a great deal of fear in that individual. or that on some level they will be able to assimilate it at some point in their lives. Which means they have actually, even though they do not think it, worked out much of that fear already. Understand?
Yes.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank
Sure.
You!
Why have we created the disease AIDS on our planet, and do you foresee a cure in the near future?
In a sense, there can be. But remember this. No matter what you call a physiological cure, it will always only be representative of the willingness to heal yourselves within your consciousness. Now, in general, this will be brief because we have talked about this many times, and the information is available on some of the other tapes that we have created with you. However, in general, that disease represents the inability or unwillingness of your society to blend and balance the male and the female energy within every female and male. It is a fear of intimacy, in a sense. That blending is now going on in your society in an enforced way through the recognition and creation of that dis-ease, for it has dropped all your immunity, and now you must begin to interact as one society. If you will not allow joy and ecstasy to bind you, then you will allow fear to bring you together. And that, to some degree, is what you are doing. When you start learning to blend and balance the polarities, the seeming dichotomy of positive and negative within each and every being, of maleness and femaleness within each and every being, which does not mean you will not express yourself as a male or a female, but the idea of the blending of the energy within each and every person, the validation of each and every person, will allow there to be a strengthening of society. To some degree, it also goes hand in hand with the definition you have given to vulnerability. For most of you see the word vulnerability as meaning weakness, the dropping of barriers, when in fact vulnerability can be defined as a complete and total openness, a complete and total trust, a connection into the infinite of all that is. And a connection into all that is absolute and total power, not weakness. So you are examining all these things at a very accelerated pace with the creation of that disease. Now, it is our perception that there can be what you would call a symbolically representative physiological cure within what you call 6 to 18 of your months. But again, it will generally be representative of your willingness to blend the idea in your consciousness first. Almost any disease can be, quote-unquote, cured if the individual's belief system believes that it will work, whatever that cure may be. No cure will work if the belief system won't buy it. Understand? Also, one of the ways that will almost work for almost any disease, because it is symbolically representative of a foundation belief many of you understand and are connected into, is the placing of an individual in a strong, pulsing electromagnetic field, operating at approximately 7.5 cycles per second. It will align you with the earth frequency, crystallize you, and in being so balanced and so centered, almost no notion of imbalance or disease is capable of existing when you are aligned with the total electromagnetic field of your planet, with the natural frequency of your world. Understand?
Yeah. Thank you.
Bashar, would that be like being in a pyramid or something like that?
It can be, yes. Even some of what you call your medical device, magnetic resonance imaging scanner, has the ability to be tuned to not only diagnose, but to cure. Some of you are just beginning to recognize it. And or that electrical pulses on very mild amperage can be sent through your body to blend and balance the electrical potential in your body, and in a sense, bring it back to a centered state of polarity balance. Except some of these cures more than others. And perhaps for them, these cures will work, and perhaps for other cultures, It will take some time. Does that assist you?
Yeah. There's a machine called the Accuscope. Is that known to be a good source of electrical impulses to feel?
Define. Can you define its function?
It reads, it's like a computer. It has two probes, and you put the probe on touching the skin to the area that's in pain, and it feeds information into the computer base about how the dead cells in that area. And then it's electrical.
Both probes placed in that area, or is one slightly removed into an area that would represent healthy tissue?
I think it goes on the healthy part.
One on the healthy?
One on the healthy and one on the area that's in pain.
Then that can be indicative of reading the electrical imbalance of the body, and a small trickle of positive charged electricity in the area of the damaged tissue can create a rebalance. Okay? It can be utilized that way.
And I also have a bed that has magnets in it.
It can be aligning. But again, mostly it will depend upon the belief system of the individual. Now listen, the idea of magnetic alignment and crystalline alignment, either using the idea of magnets and or crystals, which sometimes can be used in that way, will accelerate the blending and integration of an individual's consciousness. Sometimes, I do not mean to scare you, sometimes, if an individual is focused on the idea of negative belief, it might accelerate those as well, to get them to face their fears and integrate it. Understand?
Yes.
It depends on how the individual is focused when they are in the magnetic field. Generally, it will make a move toward a positive alignment, but the move toward positive alignment may, of necessity, carry the individual through their fears in order to get there. Because the only way you can balance is by going through what you fear, not avoiding it. Understand?
Yes.
Which doesn't mean you have to experience the negativity. It simply means facing the reason you have created a fearful idea.
But the magnets also create an ionization of the blood in the system.
Sometimes.
Sometimes?
Not always. It will depend upon their alignment, their strength, their resonant capability, their purity, and many other factors. So that's it.
Yes. How does one test it, though, in that capacity?
There are many various ways, and for now, they will be too long to go into.
Okay.
Bashar?
You!
Thank you. A couple of months ago, my husband and I decided to buy a house closer to San Francisco to commute, and the idea was exciting, and we really felt like it was all in our excitement.
Yes.
Well, the whole damn thing is just falling apart. In the meantime, we haven't found a house. We can't find a location. We got inundated with ants in the house we're in. Our cash flow crashed.
No. However, remember this. If we're talking about totally trusting the reality you get as a part of the path and not an interruption in it, then you will recognize that many times certain circumstances that are exciting at first are exciting not because they have to be carried through, but they are exciting because it leads you in the direction you need to go. You don't necessarily have to create the expectation that just because it excites you at first means that it must complete itself. It is that expectation which can be causing you to not see the path it is creating for you as a path, and instead is allowing you to see it as a divergence or an interruption. In other words, the unexpected has just as much right to belong in your life as what you expect. And very often the unexpected is mostly what you will get. But if you trust that the unexpected is representative of the path, you will then allow yourself to see how it fits and will not automatically at first label it to be an interruption that has no business being in your life. That is what trust and conviction is all about. If you know that you are following your excitement, then by definition you must assume that however it manifests is the way it needs to get you to look at what you need to look at that moment. The sooner you are willing to accept that it is a part of your life and get out of what you need, the sooner you can get on with what you prefer. Understand?
I think so. So essentially, what you're saying is like the idea of buying the house was something to get us moving in some direction, but not necessarily.
It may play out, but it doesn't necessarily have to. The idea is to understand, let's say, to approach it with more of a curiosity and a fascination, to be excited by the unexpected. To say, well, this did not go the way we expected. How fascinating. What does this mean? Why do you suppose it did go this way? Now, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt it must represent a positive direction because that's the choice I am, a positive being. I may not know exactly how it fits, but I know it fits. If you maintain that attitude, then you will see very quickly how it fits. But if you automatically react, this doesn't fit, then you will not give yourself a chance to see how it could have fit.
Well, I saw how, I did that with everything except the ants. I didn't see how the ants.
What do they represent to you?
Well, I don't know.
What meaning do you give them? Well, think about it.
Chaotic, busy little things.
Chaotic, busy little things.
Right.
Do they seem to be disorganized?
Yes, they do seem to be disorganized most times. Sometimes they're very organized, they follow each other.
Yeah.
And on my kitchen counter, they're just all over the place. And I studied them to see where they were coming from, and they just came from everywhere.
Oh.
There was no organization there.
Oh. Now, in any way, shape, or form, do you believe that represents how you think of yourself? I suppose I should take that as affirmative. We are very happy you are capable of having such a wonderful time. Yes. Are you beginning to get the picture? All right. Thank you for enjoying self-discovery. Yes.
What kind of contact exactly do you have with members of governments like in the United States, Great Britain, France, Russia? Have you made yourself clearly...
Members of other civilizations have actually had face-to-face communication with many members of many governments on your planet. Your governments do understand, but they are afraid. And to some degree, there is also on some level a mutual consent to some degree between some members of your government and members of our Association of Worlds as to the rate of exposure of our existence that would be comfortable for your work. The more you are all willing, not in an attacking way, not in an accusatory way, but in a loving, equal, sharing, excited way, to allow your governments to know you are ready to know we exist, then the information can be brought to the surface. The sooner you all realize you are your governments and open up lines of communication between what you call your public and your government on this issue, then the more you can allow your governments to understand. There will not be panic, there will not be chaos, they will not lose their power, but will gain self-empowerment along with all of you in an equal way. Understand?
Yes, this is, it's important to know that there have been those contacts.
There have been.
Because then it's a big help for maintaining peace on Earth if the members of those governments know that you do exist that you have a superior...
Oh, one moment. It is precisely for that reason that we usually keep ourselves unobtrusive. Because the decision to create peace on your planet is not reliant on whether you know we exist. It must be reliant on whether you choose peace or not. The decision must be yours without our direct influence on it. For it is your planet. It is your world. It is not up to us to decide what you will and won't do with it directly. So the idea must not be based on whether we exist or not. The idea must be based on whether you desire peace for yourselves or not. That is why we are, to some degree, remaining relatively unobtrusive. So that we will not be the reason you choose peace. So that you will choose peace because that's what you prefer, because that is what you want to work.
Are you not worried about the possibility of nuclear war?
No. Now, I will share this with you. Only now, at this time, are we allowed to share this with you. Because as a society, it is our perception that as of at least 10 of your years ago, even though this decision may still be unconscious for most of you, as a society you have already decided not to annihilate yourselves by nuclear war. That is our perception of your energy. And so we can at this time share with you that the one exception to the idea of our direct influence within you and your society, now that you have made the decision by yourselves, is that you never would have been allowed to have a nuclear war. Because even though it is your world, and you are certainly welcome to destroy yourselves utterly if you wish, the one reason it would not be allowed to be done by nuclear annihilation is because it wouldn't remain in your own backyard, so to speak. It would upset the fabric of interdimensional space and time and affect other civilizations other than your own. And that is not allowed. You may destroy your civilization in any way, shape, or form you wish, other than the way that will directly affect other civilizations that have nothing directly to do with you, which nuclear annihilation would do. Therefore, that type of imbalance would not have been allowed. Now, your government was given a few demonstrations now and then to paint some of the picture that it would not be possible. However, this was done when it was already understood that enough momentum existed in your society's consciousness to already choose to not annihilate yourselves that way anyway. It was simply reinforced with a demonstration. In what you call approximately your late 1960s, there was demonstration over what you call a few missile bases, sightings of many of the craft of the Association of Worlds over your missile bases. When those craft left the area and your military personnel inspected the missiles, they found that all of what you call the launch codes have been erased electromagnetically and made dysfunctional. They understood then and there that simply, had anyone had the notion to push what you call the button, it wouldn't have worked. For we have the capability of electromagnetically suppressing any electronic activity at all, anywhere. Now, again, these things can be revealed at this time only because as a world you have already decided you will not destroy yourself. Anything you are now recognizing as an escalation of skirmishes and apparent violence upon your world In a sense, it's an acceleration bringing things that were formerly hidden to the surface, getting it all out of your system, because in a sense you now know it's safe to do so, because it will not lead to total destruction. You are going through the last remnants and vestiges of is basically all a show. Because they are still posturing out of fear. Because they still do not want to lose what they perceive to be your confidence in them. But to some degree, it has been on some levels choreographed. For understand, if you really stop and think about it, if you did have such a war, it certainly would not be to the advantage of anyone. Your government knows this. And there are many areas in which many of what appear to be enemy governments are actually working together that your public is simply unaware of. Understand?
Yes, it's very good to know that.
This is all coming to light. And again, within what you call the next 3 of your decades, in a sense, this will all be behind you.
But the extraterrestrials will help, which you have said in the 60s.
This is now the way we are helping.
Right, through this means of channeling.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So to give you the opportunity to hear and discuss perspectives and ideas that you might desire to choose, to manifest upon your word. But we are doing it in a way that does not force you to believe you have to choose it. Because there is no way right now to prove that we are who we say we are. Because we do not want you to believe anything we say just because we say it. We want you to believe it because you choose to. That is how we are helping you now. To remember your own power. Look to us to be your saviors because you don't need saving. And we will not save you from anything else at this point. Understand?
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yes.
Bashar?
Yes.
Could you define for me the relationship between the soul, consciousness, and mind?
It is only a definitional one. For they are all really simply different expressions of the same one, consciousness. Consciousness is simply the awareness that you are, the primal creation that you are, the existence itself that is aware of itself. That is consciousness. Existence itself, self-aware. Soul and mind are differentiations of convenience, in a sense, projections of consciousness. Soul can be simply called the non-physical aspects of being, non-physical aspects. They can be as broad or as focused as you desire them to be. Anywhere from a collective idea down to a singular idea. Mind is generally the intersection, let us say, for convenience sake, of consciousness in physiological reality. The electromagnetic field, the intersection of consciousness with the electromagnetic field creates mentality, or mind. Mind is the expression of consciousness in physical terms. Understand?
Yes.
But all these things are simply definitional aspects of the one consciousness that you are. Different frequencies, different methods of expressing the self, different ideas of the self. In other words, remember, your spirit does not really exist inside your body. Your body is your spirit in physical terms. Your consciousness does not really exist inside your body. More precisely, your body exists within your consciousness. And so does your spirit, and so does your soul. They are all ideas of yourself. Understand?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yes.
Have any civilizations destroyed themselves?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And there was also one in your own solar system.
Which one?
Referred to in ancient terminology as Malbec. It occupied the orbit between what you now call your Mars and your Jupiter, and is now represented by your asteroid belt. From that destruction, many incarnations upon Earth came from. And much of the, what you would call, negative confusion has resulted. For in creating such an imbalance of destruction, then that was to some degree responsible for a lot of the negativity and imbalance that your society on Earth has also experienced for many tens of thousands of years. The continuation of that momentum from that destruction took a while for many of you to reincarnationally work through. In your terminology, it was very, very long ago. And we were at that time not involved to the level that we are now. Understand?
Yes, my question on the worlds that you say are involved in helping Earth.
Yes.
Is there a general agreement or consensus as far as peacekeeping, or whatever the idea is, amongst all these civilizations that are coming?
Generally, yes.
Okay. And are other worlds being helped also?
Oh, yes. I interact with many worlds, not just Europe. And by no means, to use a colloquial phrase, and I do not mean to be judgmental or invalidational to any world at all by using this phrase, but by no means are you on the bottom of what you call your totem pole. There are many worlds that are steeped in many different degrees of limitation, many different degrees of negativity. You are far closer to an expression of ecstasy on your world than many of you may think. Remember that great transformation is not the product of mediocrity. Use what we have used as a rubber band analogy many times. If you take one of your rubber bands and pull it back very far into negativity, once you finally let go, that is an indication of how fast and far you will snap into the positive side. You are right on the threshold of letting go. The same energy and momentum that you have used to generate the negativity, the focus of limitation on your world, will now snap into creating a positive alignment, and that will push you very far, very fast. That is why there is a high degree of interest in your planet at this time. Because your world can, in a sense, within a relatively short period of time, become one of the strongest members of the Association of Worlds and do the greatest service to many other worlds. Because of the experience of negativity that you have had, you will be able to assist many other worlds in the negativity they may be experiencing. We have in the association a little nickname for all of you. And it is not meant to be derogatory. In fact, if you examine it the way we mean it in a positive sense, you will understand how we have applied it to you. You are called masters of limitation. Your world, your Earth, is one of the most highly focused worlds we have ever discovered within its limitation. And therefore, you will be very well rounded in your experience in helping other worlds through there. In other words, let me put it this way, and again, not meaning to be derogatory, but the degree to which Earth has experienced negativity will make almost any other world you come across that you will help in your own good timing seem like child's play.
How will we reach them?
As your own consciousness expands and your technology develops along lines similar to ours, you will, in time, relatively a very short period of time, be the UFOs of other civilizations. Now, as we perceive your energy now, the most likely candidate for another planetary system that your world will begin to interact with in a similar manner to the way we are assisting you now will be a civilization on a planet orbiting what you call, in your nomenclature, the Barnard Star. They are, relatively speaking, if you wish some sort of a chronological historical analogy, somewhere approximating right now in their civilization where you were in what you call your Renaissance era. By the time you are traveling in space and assisting other worlds, they will have arrived at a point approximating where you are now, and they will be ready to receive the understanding that there are other civilizations in creation, and you will be one of the first ambassadors, even as we are ambassadors to your world now.
Bashar,
We'll play your part.
how do you perceive us right now as you're coming through Darrell? How do you perceive us sitting here?
I perceive you as a relationship, relationships to each other. I perceive individuality as defined by all of the connections it is to everything else. I perceive patterns of energy, patterns of momentum, patterns of likelihood, patterns of intention. I also perceive you as living life, as joyful children, as wise masters. That is how we perceive.
So you basically are feeling the energy,
yes.
You're seeing the energy, not the form of
it
the
is
physical
an energy
body.
orchestration. And in a sense, we are playing conductor. Understand?
Yes. Thank you.
Sure.
You and they.
Why have you chosen English as a medium, for instance?
I have not. I am not speaking your language. The channel is programmed with English. Other channels around your planet, in other cultures, will allow their own language to come through in the translation of our thoughts. And we are channeling through many more channels than the one present before you now. But we are not speaking your language at all. It is simply that whatever language the translation device, the body of the channel, is programmed with, will be the language you hear it in. Understand?
Will this channel allow you to speak your world language?
That to some degree can be done because there is no expectation on the part of the channel as to what it might or might not sound like, and because it is my quote-unquote natural language. To some degree, it can be done.
Could we get an example?
Ha-ha-too. I love you.
Can you say it again?
Ha-ha-too.
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 Ha-ha.
Ha-ha-ha.
Do you sing?
Yes.
Ha-ha-too.
Would you sing something?
Ha-ha-too. Oh, in that way directly. It is more of what you simply call a vibrational channel. You are familiar with some of these ideas. Now, another phrase may simply be Iliakar de Mashimashana. The experience of one is the experience of all. If you wish, Cha, Chu, Shimi, that's Ban. Kashimi Ketsro, Shimuk, Seal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. F.
That planet you were referring to that became an asteroid because it was destroyed.
Maldek, yes.
You call it Maldek?
Maldek.
Is there not another name for it like Lucifera?
It is an old nomenclature, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
There are also many other variations of that terminology. Some in your ancient society have referred to it as Marduk, as well as Maldek. These are all ancient nomenclatures in your own tongue, not ours.
And many of these inhabitants reincarnated on Earth in southern Russia and what is now Iran and the Middle East.
All over your planet. No one specific locale. All over your world.
Are any of us here?
Understand that at this timing, there has been so much blending and so much transforming that it would be just as valid to say that all of you are as none of you are. You all now are on the threshold of a completely new vibration of balancing that polarity. So in that sense, you all might as well be, since you're all basically moving in the same direction now. You're all matched in frequency. You are all now of Earth. and you all have connections to everywhere else. But basically, yes, all of you.
Would we be as the same in our relationship with one another as the Atlanteans may have been on this planet?
You are becoming as it was in early Atlantis. Much of the, let us say, incarnation of negativity also took place during mid-Atlantean times, and was responsible to some degree for the diversification of polarity which caused its destruction. A repetition of the Malbec scenario on Earth. Now you're at the end of that cycle of negativity, begun approximately 30 of your 1,000 years ago, which culminated in the destruction of Atlantis approximately 12,000 of your years ago. You are all, in that sense, Atlanteans. The idea now is that you are on the threshold of the same ability to destroy yourselves, but now you are choosing not to. You have played out the limitations, played out the negativity, played out the destruction. Now you have created an awakening within you. You are now waking up to the godhood that you are. And now you are creating heaven on earth.
How did you find the harmonic convergence that just passed this August?
Well, it was very simple, actually. All we had to do, in that sense, was home in on the overall idea of all the blending, of all the patterns, of all the frequencies, all the vibrations of consciousness, physical and non-physical, that your planet represents at this time, and allow ourselves to join in that participation in joy and ecstasy, in the simplicity of creation, in the simplicity of self-revelation, to aid and assist the accelerated momentum that your world is now utilizing. Now, remember that what you call your harmonic convergence is, in a sense, part 2 of a 4-part harmonic. 40 of your years ago, approximately, was the first phase, harmonic initiation. Now, harmonic convergence, the coming together of all the vibrational frequencies, the limbo state, the transitional state, that allows you to recognize all the probable realities you could become. 30 of your years hence, harmonic identification, the solidification of the reality you are choosing now, to the point where that will be the only reality you will experience upon your planet. 10 years after that, completing the second 40-year cycle, harmonic synchronization. Full interaction with the association of worlds, as the planet you are, as one world, as Earth. Understand?
Yes.
So we found it most joyful that it represents the idea now of the willingness of each and every one of you individually and collectively to choose the reality you prefer, and with conviction to live it, to be it, and in creating a reality that may be similar to ours, allowing us to experience the joy of knowing that we will be interacting with you.
Bashar, when I was at Mount Shasta during that time, I saw quite a number of UFOs in the sky, and there were starships going to the mountain. There seems to be a lot of interaction with starships at Mount Shasta.
Yes, it is a high energy vortex, as are many areas upon your planet that make it more conducive for the electromagnetic lines of flow that our ships travel on them. However, not everything you see that you think is a ship in the colloquial sense. Some of it is simply projections of consciousness that you interpret in physiological formats. In a sense, it can represent other consciousness, but it is not always colloquially a mechanical device. Understand?
Yes, I really didn't see it up close. It was very, very high up with a ball of light moving. And
many what we call spheres of light will actually be representative of interactions with your dimension of reality with other consciousness directly. is simply that you interpret them that way. Some of them are what you call mechanical craft, so to speak. But of course, anything physical is a projection of consciousness. Understand? Mm-hmm. But there are many strong gateways for the sea, electromagnetic gates upon your planet. And these gates can allow you to align with all levels of yourself and accelerate your vibrational energy upward. Okay. Name the tape.
Name that tape.
All right. The idea, if you wish, can be simply what we began with this evening of your time. You can call it images. And
what do all of the fires in Northern California represent this summer?
Again, there can be many different reasons for many different things. Some of them can represent release of energy. Some can represent what we call purification, clearing of the way. Some of them can also simply be expressions of negativity and release in that way. Some of them can be beacons that allow individuals to recognize the accelerative transformation that is going on. For fire represents a rapid oxidation, a rapid change of things. It can represent to some degree the release of the fear that too rapid an acceleration may burn you out, though you do not have to fear that, for you will never get more than you can really handle. It represents all of these and many things, depending upon all and each of all the individuals that witness them. Remember, again, fundamentally, it doesn't have a meaning unto itself. All the different individuals that witness such a thing have so created it and will assign individually all the meanings that are apropos for all the individuals witnessing their own creation. You understand? So, the idea is to get in touch with the personal meaning and allow yourself to simply recognize how it moves you, what it represents to you, and to remember that these images are simply that. Different aspects, different images of you. Different symbols that you use to reflect back to yourself in the mirror of your reality, the idea you are being at any given moment. For the purpose of deciding if that is the idea you choose to continue to be, or if you choose to transform it. Use it as you will. At this timing, we will extend to each and every one of you, individually and collectively, our deepest appreciation and unconditional love in co-creating this interaction with us this day of your time. We remind you simply once again to remember that physical reality is what you imagine it to be. You are dreaming right now. Wake up and live the dream you prefer to dream. 'Tis up to you. Our hearts to you. We bid you exciting dream life and life dream, a fond and loving good day.
Thank you.
Thank you. How did it go? Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dale.
It's a powerful session today.
Historical analogy, somewhere approximating right now in their civilization where you were in what you call your Renaissance era. By the time you are traveling in space and assisting other worlds, they will have arrived at a point approximating where you are now, and they will be ready to receive the understanding that there are other civilizations in creation, and you will be one of the first ambassadors. even as we are ambassadors to your world now.
Bashar,
We'll play your part.
how do you perceive us right now as you're coming through Darrell? How do you perceive us sitting here?
I perceive you as a relationship. Relationships to each other. I perceive individuality as defined by all of the connections it is to everything else. I perceive patterns of energy, patterns of momentum, patterns of likelihood, patterns of intention. I also perceive you as living life, as joyful children, as wise masters. That is how we perceive. Understand?
Mm-hmm. So you basically are feeling the energy.
Yes.
You're seeing the energy and not the form of
It
the
is an
physical
energy
body.
orchestration. And in a sense, we are playing conductor.
Mm-hmm.
Understand?
Yes.
1, 2.
Thank you.
You and then you.
Why have you chosen English as a medium, for instance?
I have not. I am not speaking your language. The channel is programmed with English. Other channels around your planet, in other cultures, will allow their own language to come through in the translation of our thoughts. And we are channeling through many more channels than the one present before you now. But we are not speaking your language at all. It is simply that whatever language the translation device, the body of the channel, is programmed with, will be the language you hear it in. Understand?
Will this channel allow you to speak your world language?
That to some degree can be done because there is no expectation on the part of the channel as to what it might or might not sound like, and because it is my quote-unquote natural language. To some degree it can be done.
Good. Give me an example.
Ha-ha-too. I love you.
Can you say it again?
Ha-ha-too.
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 Ha-ha.
Ha-ha.
Do you sing?
Yes.
Ha-ha-too.
Would you give us an example?
Ha-ha-too. Or in that way directly. It is more of what you simply call a vibrational channel. You are familiar with some of these ideas. Now, another phrase may simply be Iliakar de Mashimashana. The experience of one is the experience of all. If you wish, Cha, Chu, Shini, that's Ban. Kashini Kets Row, Shimuk, Seal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. S.
That planet you were referring to that became an asteroid because it was destroyed.
Maldek, yes.
You call it Maldek?
Maldek.
Is there not another name for it like Lucifera?
It is an old nomenclature, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
There are also many other variations of that terminology. Some in your ancient society have referred to it as Marduk, as well as Maldek. These are all ancient nomenclatures in your own tongue, not ours.
And many of these inhabitants reincarnated on Earth
Yes.
in southern Russia and what is now Iran and the Middle East.
All over your planet. No one specific locale. All over your world.
Are any of us here?
Understand that at this timing, there has been so much blending and so much transforming that it would be just as valid to say that all of you are as none of you are. You all now are on the threshold of a completely new vibration of balancing that polarity. So in that sense, you all might as well be, since you're all basically moving in the same direction now. You're all matched in frequency. You are all now of Earth. And you all have connections to everywhere else. But basically, yes, all of you.
Would we be as the same in our relationship with one another as the Atlanteans may have been on this planet?
You are becoming as it was in early Atlantis. Much of the, let us say, incarnation of negativity also took place during mid-Atlantean times, and was responsible to some degree for the diversification of polarity which caused its destruction. A repetition of the Malbec scenario on Earth. Now you're at the end of that cycle of negativity, begun approximately 30 of your 1,000 years ago, which culminated in the destruction of Atlantis approximately 12,000 of your years ago. You are all, in that sense, Atalanteans. The idea now is that you are on the threshold of the same ability to destroy yourselves, but now you are choosing not to. You have played out the limitations, played out the negativity, played out the destruction. Now you have created an awakening within you. You are now waking up to the godhood that you are. And now you are creating heaven on earth.
How did you find the harmonic convergence that just passed this August?
Well, it was very simple, actually. All we had to do, in that sense, was home in on the overall idea of all the blending, of all the patterns, of all the frequencies, all the vibrations of consciousness, physical and non-physical, that your planet represents at this time, and allow ourselves to join in that participation in joy and ecstasy, in the simplicity of creation, in the simplicity of self-revelation, to aid and assist the accelerated momentum that your world is now utilizing. Now, remember that what you call your harmonic convergence is, in a sense, part 2 of a 4-part harmonic. 40 of your years ago, approximately, was the first phase, harmonic initiation. Now, harmonic convergence, the coming together of all the vibrational frequencies, the limbo state, the transitional state, that allows you to recognize all the probable realities you could become. 30 of your years hence, harmonic identification, the solidification of the reality you are choosing now, to the point where that will be the only reality you will experience upon your planet. 10 years after that, completing the second 40-year cycle, harmonic synchronization. Full interaction with the association of worlds, as the planet you are, as one world, as Earth. Understand?
Yes.
So we found it most joyful that it represents the idea now of the willingness of each and every one of you individually and collectively to choose the reality you prefer, and with conviction to live it, to be it, and in creating a reality that may be similar to ours, allowing us to experience the joy of knowing that we will be interacting with you.
Bashar, when I was at Mount Shasta during that time, I saw quite a number of UFOs in the sky, and there were starships going to the mountain. There seems to be a lot of interaction with starships at Mount Shasta.
Yes, it is a high energy vortex, as are many areas upon your planet that make it more conducive for the electromagnetic lines of flow that our ships travel on them. However, not everything you see that you think is a ship in the colloquial sense. Some of it is simply projections of consciousness that you interpret in physiological formats. In a sense, it can represent other consciousness, but it is not always colloquially a mechanical device. Understand?
Yes, I really didn't see it up close. It was very, very high up, with a ball of light moving. And I assumed
what we call spheres of light will actually be representative of interactions with your dimension of reality with other consciousness directly. It is simply that you interpret them that way. Some of them are what you call mechanical craft, so to speak. But of course, anything physical is a projection of consciousness. Understand?
Mm-hmm.
But there are many strong gateways for the sea, electromagnetic gates upon your planet. And these gates can allow you to align with all levels of yourself and accelerate your vibrational energy upward. Okay.
We stopped
Yeah.
and so we
Name the date.
Name that date.
All right. The idea, if you wish, can be simply what we began with this evening of your time. You can call it images. And
what did all of the fires in Northern California represent?
again, there can be many different reasons for many different things. Some of them can represent release of energy. Some can represent what we call purification, clearing of the way. Some of them can also simply be expressions of negativity and release in that way. Some of them can be beacons that allow individuals to recognize the accelerative transformation that is going on. For fire represents a rapid oxidation, a rapid change of things. It can represent to some degree the release of the fear that too rapid an acceleration may burn you out, though you do not have to fear that, for you will never get more than you can really handle. It represents all of these and many things, depending upon all and each of all the individuals that witness them. Remember, again, fundamentally, it doesn't have a meaning unto itself. All the different individuals that witness such a thing have co-created and will assign individually all the meanings that are apropos for all the individuals witnessing their own creation. You understand? So, the idea is to get in touch with the personal meaning and allow yourself to simply recognize how it moves you, what it represents to you, and to remember that these images are simply that. Different aspects, different images of you. Different symbols that you use to reflect back to yourself in the mirror of your reality, the idea you are being at any given moment. For the purpose of deciding if that is the idea you choose to continue to be, or if you choose to transform it. Use it as you will. At this timing, we will extend to each and every one of you, individually and collectively, our deepest appreciation and unconditional love in co-creating this interaction with us this day of your time. We remind you simply once again to remember that physical reality is what you imagine it to be. You are dreaming right now. Wake up and live the dream you prefer to dream. Our hearts to you. We bid you exciting dream life and life dream, a fond and loving good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Darryl.
It's a powerful session tonight.